Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. Not yet Revive to Stage rather, not just Revive Stronger. That is who we are as a company. Is it Revive to Stage? Where are you now, Pascal? I know we spoke last time. A lot of people were like, actually, really nice comments. Like a lot of people. I actually had some of my clients like listen to that podcast and they're like, "Oh, let me know if there's anything I can do to help Pascal." And it's like a lot of people, which is really nice. But I know you said the other day you've actually trained a little bit now, feeling a bit better. Still not 100%, I'm assuming.
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you very much for all the kind messages and that people are caring about me. Very means a lot to me. And also, sorry for kind of bringing up the thing about my health the entire time. I don't want to, sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to bore people with my problems. I don't know where I have it from. That has always been me. And whenever there was a problem, I'm trying to solve it on my own, right? And that's why I sometimes feel when I'm talking about my problems that I'm bothering other people with that. So sorry, but right now nothing else is going on in my life other than that. And last week, I think it was one of the most challenging weeks in my entire life, to be honest, because of some personal issues. There was something in my family. I said in one of the episodes of the Coaching Corner that Tony was had to undergo surgery. And that was happening this week. I want to not say why that he needed to undergo surgery, but it was very, very emotional. And right now, still, it is because we are uncertain of the outcomes. And that is very, very bothersome. And that on top of the way I'm feeling right now, it's not cool. I thought that 2020 was supposed to be the shit show. And the beginning of 2021 is, for me, the shit show, to be honest. But yeah, I've trained here for the first time now in like 2 weeks time and still feeling dizzy at times. Also with my eyes still, it's fucked up. I don't know what it is. I'm going to see a neurologist at the beginning of March now just to get a second opinion on like things, especially when it comes to the MRI scan, and maybe he has a clue what it may be. And yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Are you dieting now or?
No, now I'm not, simply because I don't want to put any kind of additional pressure and stress on my body when I don't know what it is, right? It could be that I'm clear to be dieting again, but the thing is, I don't know. And what if I'm not, and then I'm going back into a deficit, and it's just an additional stress for my body that then just like causes anything in return. And that's why I'm very hesitant with that. However, at the same time, I have to say, I'm very not hungry at all. I was just like here today and thinking, oh, what am I supposed to be eating here today? So my nutritional habits are I wouldn't say all over the place, because they are still very structured in comparison to other people. But for me personally, it's not that on a daily basis I'm still eating the same things. Here today I had for lunch fish with quark, with a potato and some broccoli. Right? So all kind of mixed together. So kind of a northern cuisine, which was tasting amazing. But this is something that I'm normally not eating for lunch or so. But I was just like, I need something else. I need something that is just like, I don't know, perhaps a little bit palatable, but I still need to eat clean, still need to get in some vegetable or kind of minerals, vitamins, stuff like that. So I have to play around so that I'm not just ending up eating just junk the entire time, because my hunger is simply not present at the moment.
Pascal, all I have on my mind is thinking, so you ate quark, fish, what was it, potato and broccoli, and you almost were like, I think that's as clean as it comes. I don't think you can get much cleaner, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. that was very clean.
Like, and also, you ordered a Domino's, didn't you? That's what you did.
Yeah. No, but the portion size was also very. So I was there, right? And I was preparing that meal, and I was just weighing the potatoes and taking the quark, and I was just like thinking, okay, I'm not taking 250 grams of quark. I'm taking 125. I'm not taking 400 grams of potatoes. I'm only taking 300 grams. And then I'm only taking like 100 grams of fish, because I know that if I take double the amount of everything, which I'm normally probably able to eat, and also the broccoli was just like three, what is it called? Like three.
Oh, what are they called? Like trees? I don't know.
Yeah.
Stems.
3 stems, whatever, right? Because I knew like this is so bland,
Right.
and still at the same time very, very clean, but I couldn't eat that much more. And I was just opting for that meal because this is something that that I'm not having on a daily basis. And because of that, I was hoping for more like a hunger for it, if that makes sense.
Variety, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I see that. I can definitely see that. The same happens to me when I go through like prolonged maintenance, like primer phases. Even in my deload, like here, especially in the latter half, when I bring calories down to maintenance, my appetite is just pants. Like I just don't really want to eat. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to eat some whole eggs instead of egg whites, because I'm not so worried about like fat and carb ratios or whatever. So, and then I'm just like, man, this just feels weird. Like I just feel out of sorts with it all.
Yeah.
I can definitely feel
So right
that.
now you are in a deload then?
Yeah, so I've deloaded from Monday. So yeah, I haven't taken a full week deload. I realized for the last 2 deloads, they've been shortened just because of how my weeks landed, and one was after a mini cut. But yeah, this one's going to be a full deload. I definitely need it. I spoke to you. I need to look at my plans, because, and the great thing with you not dieting now, I'm not concerned about it, or you shouldn't be concerned about it, because the shows are actually much later this year. Yeah. So it's not much of a concern, but that means my plans need to change a little bit, because there's just a bit too much time I've got. Yeah. I don't think I want to. I think at the moment my diet is set up for like 20 weeks or something, and I just don't think I need more than that. Yeah. Maybe like having more time is generally a good thing in a prep, but also I don't want excess time. So yeah, I need to have a look at, maybe I can do like a 3 weeks on, half week deload, and then another like 3 or 4 weeks on, and then deload, and then kind of active recovery into prep eventually. But yeah, anyway, deloading now.
That is what I have with some of my athletes who are competing this year, that when they announce the majority of shows, we were just like, okay, we are not changing the plan, but we have time on our side now, which is good, good. So we just keep going and then see how things are going. And then once we're getting to the point, and you always bring up the great analogy of like, before you actually want to be slightly on fire, but not like burning, all right? And this is where I then want to take the majority of athletes, then sit there for a while, and then go for the last bit when the time calls for it.
I had the same with people who planned earlier shows, but now they can like take a true maintenance period in between, because most people just don't end up having that luxury. So it's like, oh, now we just have been forced to have this luxury, which is great, because that should mean, and actually, well, I think we were saying it back and forth, like this year was going to be super competitive anyway, but now people have like even more time, so they ultimately should be even more conditioned, and it should be even more competitive, which is quite exciting. But man, yeah, I know I'm one to talk because I have a fairly decent setup from home, but seeing so many people training at our gyms in the US and like a lot of our clients, it's like, oh man, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I have one of my athletes who lives in Spain, and I know that their gyms have shut in, I think in January it was. And he just sent me a message here just like 1 hour ago that the gyms are going to reopen here on Monday. And I was just like, man.
Quite a lot of European gyms are opening.
Oh, really?
I have some Bulgaria. Bulgaria's Europe, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Bulgaria just opened up. And where else? Oh, no, it wasn't Europe. Canada, gyms are opening up. A few people across the US, their gyms are opening back up. Maybe it wasn't European specific.
What is going on with Germany? That is I told you about the vaccine scandals. it's basically the only thing that they are talking about at the moment in Germany when it comes to the news. Just like, yeah, that Germany is very, very much behind when it comes to the vaccination kind of. And it's so unfortunate because I'm seeing then UK being the world champion at the moment, the leader with vaccination. And I mean, I'm happy for you guys. I really am.
We find out, I think it's on the 15th of February. I think they're discussing like next steps.
Okay.
But you see so much shit in the news. And one of them was like, it was saying like schools are going to be priority to open first, and then this, and it was like, if anything, gyms are last. They haven't been discussed. I was just like, oh no, don't make the gyms last again. Oh dear, it's just depressing. And then you've probably done this, I imagine, but you haven't yet stepped over the line where you look at bits of gym equipment every now and then because you're like, oh, maybe I'll get this or maybe I'll get that. And Arne just got a leg extension, leg curl, the same one I think as Jose's got as well. Yeah. And I'd been looking at one, and now it's like they're all sold out. And I was like, will I get it? And now today I've been looking at sissy squats, like the machine sissy squats. I was like, do I want to get one of these? They're pretty small. It's £100 or something. Maybe I'll get it.
It is like, because one of my athletes just got one this last week as well. And I forgot. Why have I forgotten his actual name? He's Envision Fitness. Yeah, Sam. But he had
Sam.
his. He had his.
While.
Ever since like the last lockdown already.
Are they good?
I've never used one, but I can imagine that they are very, very brutal. Actually, I wanted. This is only me imagining things. I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
I mean, they never said. I don't know whether they are cursing when they are doing that exercise. They never complain about it to me. So they always complain about Bulgarian split squats. So that exercise can't be that good then.
That's what I'm thinking then. It's just legs, man. Training legs, like so fatiguing with just barbell and dumbbells and little bits and like bands and cables or whatever. So yeah, I was just trying to find a way of getting a bit more for the legs. Especially because that's the area, if I want to prioritize anything, it's legs.
Yeah. I mean, I had times as well where I'm just like checking these stores every now and then and thinking like, should I get something? No, the gyms are going to reopen very soon. And then what am I doing then with it? Because I'm expecting that it's the last time that a lockdown is happening or taking place. And I was just like, should I really get something? And then I'm thinking on the other hand, is it really going to be the last one? Maybe it's worth getting some, and I could always sell it if I want to, right? So, yeah.
That was where I was every time I purchased something. And so far, every time I purchased something, I never regretted it. So I keep thinking, whenever I want to purchase something, I should just do it. But yeah, I haven't yet. I haven't fired. I can get it on Prime. It can literally come tomorrow if I want it.
Yeah. That's the cool one.
Prime's ridiculous. Yeah. It's crazy.
We are so spoiled now. Whenever something takes like 2 to 3 days of shipment, I'm already annoyed and I'm not going to order there.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I don't think I've told you this, Pascal. I ordered, this is just complete random kind of gift I got myself. For whatever reason, after rewatching all the Star Wars episodes or all the films, I've just like been a little bit obsessed with it, and I bought a lightsaber.
Yes, for real.
Oh yeah, for real. Yes. The way I convinced myself was I was thinking of your ice cream that you have there, and you have that on the wall, and I've bought a little lightsaber stand so I can have like it as atmospheric lighting. Oh yeah, I can attach it to a wall. Yeah. But I can also swing and attack people with it. So
with a sound then whenever you swing it?
It can. It does have sounds.
Nice. Which one did you get? Is it the green one?
It's actually multi. It can do like everything, I think. Right. So it wasn't, there's very expensive lightsabers on the market, but I bought one that was like mid-range. It was like £100.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still thinking business. Like, because I changed now places and this one in the background, there needs to be some kind of decoration there, right? And I'm just contemplating what I should get. Probably some nerdy
some trophies,
anime things or so. So something like that at some point.
You'll have some bodybuilding trophies.
Yeah, I think I will never get
at some stage.
Funny enough, when I was out on a walk, I was just like thinking, Pascal, you really aren't made for bodybuilding. And that's not me just like bringing it up for the sake of I don't know, pity or anything I like. But it's just like, I was just thinking, you're really not made for bodybuilding. You got Scheuermann's disease, so your upper back is chronically in pain. You got tattoos, you got loose skin. You're not genetically blessed with hypertrophy and stuff like that. It's just, but at the same time, it's just what I love. It's like, I thought of something. What was it again? Shit, I had an analogy also in my head while I was thinking these things. Can't really recall what. No, it was also related to anime, because you always, like in shonens, you will have the young kid who's an outsider, who has no talents whatsoever, right? Becoming the greatest of them all because of some kind of events and maybe finding out that he got a talent or so. This is me, but I actually never got a talent. This is just like me at the beginning, like the outsider who has no talents.
I wish I could say I was particularly talented, but unfortunately, I don't think I've got. We're very good coaches, Pascal. I can say that much. I'm very confident in our coaching abilities.
I hope so.
I think it makes you the best coaches. Always have to come from those who have to work the hardest. I have a little Instagram post that was inspired by Scott Stevenson. He was just talking about it on Dave McConey's podcast. He was talking about like why you'll never be a pro or something, and he was talking about like people with elite genetics and people with like subpar / average. He was saying it's like getting to the top of Mount Everest or a large mountain. The guys who are like got the top tier genetics, they got a helicopter ride. There's not much that can go wrong. They can do a fuckload wrong and they can still get to the top. You, on the other hand, you either have to try and climb up yourself and and never get there, or maybe have an expert Sherpa with you who will help you guide yourself there. But it's still going to take ages. It's going to be hard. And yeah, it just made me think of, I thought it was a great analogy for actually where it is. And that's why it gets so confusing as a consumer. I think sometimes we get a bit lost with it. And I've said it to you even where I hear like some of these elite guys and they're talking about it and they make it sound so simple. And they're just like, I would say they put it down to things that aren't necessarily the thing that's doing it. I think we spoke about it last week where I was saying like they put it down to the fact that they were sticking to their bro diet every single day. And it's like, well, it's probably just the fact you ate protein and you ate enough calories. Not necessarily the fact you had chicken breast and broccoli. It could have been a load of other things. So yeah, they can do a lot wrong and still get there because they have that helicopter. Yeah. I thought it was a cool analogy.
I don't want to sound like as if we are kind of seeking for excuses or so, because that could easily sound like it, right? Like, just look at them. It's their genetics and they don't even know about this. This is not how I want to put it across. It's just, I honestly also don't care about that. What others have or have not.
Yeah.
Right? It's bodybuilding is such a selfish sport. So you have to look at yourself. And in that, I look at myself. Of course, I'm automatically looking at other people because it's just like, yeah, of course, it would be lovely to look like someone else. And I was just like here today, even taking a look at once again at Shelby Starnes' Instagram account. I was just like remembering what I said in the past about just wanting to look like a female physique athlete. That's still the case. I mean, just looking at his athletes and caliber of athletes, it's just amazing to see.
And just because you brought up Shelby Starnes and the females, Scott also used this analogy in reference to people on gear. Because the gear can act a bit like a helicopter. It can give you a huge boost in the right direction as well. So that can be why there's people who, they look all right, they look pretty good, but they can be taking a lot of this extra help and they could be doing a lot wrong. But gear can go a long way to put you in the right direction.
Do you think that naturals and particularly underestimate the impact steroids can have?
I'm not sure. I think those in the know definitely don't. I think there's like a few. If you don't really know anything, you definitely underestimate it. if you know a little bit, you probably overestimate it. And then there's people who know a lot and they realize it's like there's quite a bit that goes into it, but it does a fair amount. So I think that's at least what I see. Like the people are just like, they call me out for not being natural. It's like, fucking hell. Like, you think steroids only do that much, or like, or are you? Or then, and there's people that just are like, oh yeah, you can just take this drug and you'll get the amazing results. Like you could do anything and get amazing results. It's like, no, not quite. And then, there's people who think Arnie's like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like, I don't know, Jay Cutler and all of those are natural. It's like,
that's true. I mean, I totally agree. I think that there are definitely two sides to the coin where we have people who overestimate and some people underestimate it. But I also know people who went on who didn't really see any, who just looked like a decent natural athlete.
Yeah.
But I've seen people taking gear who just don't even look like they take gear. Right? Because some people respond very well to it, or some people take drugs, but not as many drugs as they would need to take in order to see the results that they would like to, or some other things are not in place, which then impact the results as well. So if you don't know how to train, probably you will not get as much out of these substances, right? And I don't know. It's just interesting to me because it's just like when people are then bring up the natty or not discussion, who the fuck wants to know, or who's able to tell that with their bare eye? Yeah, some people you can clearly tell, but this is more like, okay, a big Rami, it's quite obvious, yeah. But just like the normal fitness influencer, most of the time, I think you won't be able to tell that.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside, you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
I think the only other time I can tell is when they're like, you'll probably know the type where, I don't know how to describe them apart from it's like basically guys with like chicken legs and like stupidly capped delts, maybe a bit of gyno, massive traps, and you're just like, and they're the ones who go to like Ibiza or something and they just party all the time. They do it all for the look and the show, and you're just like, does that even look great? I'm not sure. No offense to anyone, I doubt we have those type of listeners, but you kind of, they're the ones where I'm like, that's sometimes on the like really poor shitty shows me and Charlotte watch. That's a bit harsh, but like the just trash TV, like they go there and they're just fucking everyone and whatever.
Right now I'm watching The Bachelor again, so
they're a bit classy though, aren't they, on there?
You can't really call that classy though. I mean, right now it's The Bachelor, not The Bachelorette, and of course then you have like a bunch of girls, and it's crazy, like everyone, or not everyone, but the majority of participants there, just like they look like, Katie and I are always making jokes of that because there's one of those females right now with the season. She's 25. She looks, however, like someone who's 45 already, lives in America, is the wife of a very, very wealthy person. That guy is never at home. She is, though, the entire time at home in her dress and just like drinking alcohol, smoking the entire time. And whenever the gardener comes around, she's just flirty with him, and she's just like disgusting. That's how she is. You know what kind of person I'm talking about?
It sounds a little bit like Desperate Housewives type of
something like that, but way more plasticky with everything on her, right? It's just like,
I know, unfortunately, as we've got more advanced in that field, people have been looking more and more different.
Yeah. So it's so funny because yesterday in that show, the one said like, I have nothing in me except for that feeding. And I was just thinking like, and except for silicone and also some, what's it called on English? Hyaluron, like the acid that you're pushing into your lips as well.
Oh, the Botox.
Yeah, Botox, exactly. So you don't just have the feelings inside of you, but this as well. So, yeah. Anyway, enough about trash talk here.
Should we get to questions?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, cool. So we have, I don't think we covered this one, did we? From James, did we cover James Swifty, where we asked about, he asked, do you often second guess yourself with things?
Yeah, we did. Cool.
So Jim Rat, I don't think we actually asked his one. So he said, could you guys maybe talk a bit more in depth about cues and movement patterns that you find useful, primarily activate the lats over the traps, teres major, etc., as lats are just a muscle group many people, including me, struggle to feel properly. And then I'll ask the next one after.
Okay.
Engage in the lats.
Cues. I'm not working with cues anymore, to be honest. I know that like 5-6 years ago, that was a common thing, especially because there was this powerlifting hype and everyone was talking about cues of like, okay, push the barbell into your shins to activate the lats and stuff like that. When it comes to back movements, honestly, I'm not. I think the only thing that I'm thinking about is really just like focusing on the mind-muscle connection, having appropriate technique, and then pushing to the right area. I'm not thinking of cues anymore. And if someone is asking me for like, okay, how can I truly activate that or better activate that, I'm always just like, okay, reduce probably the load and move intentionally. So slow things down. Don't use any kind of swinging or so, right? And then try to perhaps also use something like Versa straps or Versa grips and then straps or so that you're taking out the portion where you're just like gripping the bar or gripping the handle super much, so that you just can use it as hooks. Because if you just use them as hooks, you have to do it with your back, because otherwise it doesn't really move. So it's not really cues that I'm thinking about when it comes to that, but more so just like, I think fundamental things that need to be in check. And by that, by building muscle mass, by actively practicing that, you're setting the neurological pathways in order for then recruit more motor units over time. And then over time, you will get better. And once you're opening up Pandora's box, which will come eventually if you continuously working on that, then you can't ever undo it of not hitting the back appropriately.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, actually, because I think, and I also think it's funny, people talk about feeling the lats over like the teres major or something. It's like, I just don't know if people are good enough at identifying exactly what muscles are working specifically, and also other muscles are probably also contributing to movements. But the grip one's a huge one, because a lot of people just focus so hard on pulling, and then the grip muscles just get really tired. And I often think, like with the lats, they kind of bring the arm down and in, like when we think about what the lats are doing. And so I do like a cue. I think I heard it from maybe Paul. He's called Paul. I won't say his last name. Paul S.
Serafini?
You know who I mean.
Serafini?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's Serafini. I just knew I'd get it wrong, so I was like, I'm not going to say his last name. Yes, from Gifted Performance. And he talked about pulling into your back pocket. I quite like that one, because that is like, that means you keep the elbow down close to you and bring it like side crunching, which is kind of what the lats do to like fully shorten it. So I did quite like that recent cue. But like you, I don't generally like talk about cues and talk clients through it. And more so I'm trying to get them to get that mind muscle connection and do what the muscle group, like from a biomechanic perspective, what is it doing? Bring the arm down and into our side. So I don't use that as much, and try and get them to like, do other things like the grip. I know Jeff Alberts has talked about like pistol grip, like taking away the thumb and the like first finger to try and kind of see if that helps engage things more. Like you said, slowing things down is a great one. I have found some movements that maybe bias the lats a bit more, like a neutral grip pull down. I tend to find that gets people's lats a little bit more, because it's kind of closer into the sides to the body. It gets the elbow right down close. That tends to allow people, but even more so maybe a single arm, and then they can kind of crunch to the side and they can get that kind of adduction of that going on, which can be really great. And then Moto Rose was always the one that I got from, what's his name? Alberto Nunez. He always had his Moto Rose for like finding the lats, which is basically a single arm lat pull down, which I probably prefer the single arm lat pull down to the Moto Row. But I used to use a Moto Row because that was also like the way he performed them and on the ground and really getting that stretch and then pulling it into the side, and you can really tuck down. And then you can do like things like pullovers, like a straight arm lat push down. They can be great to like kind of feel the lats a bit more, or what are they called? The ones that are, they're kind of either side, like Y pull downs. So you can just do this motion. You have the cables either side. I think they're called like a Y pull down, that type of thing. They can be decent. So yeah, those are the main ways. And I've only recently been using something from Coach Kassem, which is his like lat pull down, where he's on an incline bench just away from the lat pull down machine. And that's been a nice movement as well. So I think it is worth trying different things and seeing what you can do. But I think particularly if I was to give any take home from that, like single arm lat pull down variations, like for whatever reason, because you can get that like adduction and that crunch going on the side, like it's hard not to then be able to feel the lat there. Yeah, I think that's the only real additional thoughts I have.
Rather than thinking of cues, actually use some specific exercises that actually target that muscle group to a full extent, and then build that mind-muscle connection so you don't actually need any kind of cues in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. It's kind of like, for me, pull-ups. Like, it's such a big compound movement. It's using a lot of the back musculature, or like a horizontal bent over row. Like, I'm not feeling that in a specific muscle group. I'm just feeling it in my back as a totality. But like the whole back is working. So yeah, if someone's particularly lacking, and so even like I said at the start, I just find it hard. If you're doing a big compound lift, it's hard to know, like, I'm definitely feeling it right there. If it's an isolation lift, sure. So I think some of those ones I mentioned, they're just more isolation-like in nature, I think. So if someone's really struggling, maybe you can include some of those.
That's why
Next question.
Also, when Mike, for example, talks about like, okay, when someone is squatting and he tells me like he can't really feel his squats, and then I have to show him a little bit, and then they are burning, right? In my opinion, that's contrary to what I've observed and also experienced myself, because no matter how tall I'm standing with some kind of quad movements or so, it's not that my quads are starting to burn, to be honest, on the majority of like compound lifts, such as squatting variants, Smith machine squats, hack squats, normal squats. Even hack squats are the best example, because I can stay super upright, right? And definitely due to a high level of ankle dorsiflexion, my quads are highly stimulated. But I hardly ever get a real burn in my quads when it comes to this. There are other exercises that are also causing a burn for my quads, and that is something like lunges, for example, and also leg extensions. But when someone is then saying like, okay, if you don't feel a burn in that muscle group, then you're doing something wrong. This doesn't have to always be the case. I just wanted to also then bring that up, because you said it yourself right now that you don't feel it in a specific muscle group. You feel it more so overall in the back. And that's probably something that will also be the case for certain movements, such as the squat. When you squat down and come up again, there's no chance that you're not stimulating the quads.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can make the squat, and I have done this where like I've gone from maybe like, if you go from like a low bar squat to then a high bar squat with flats, and then a high bar squat with heels, and then an even higher heel, you can make it more and more quad focused. But I'm never like you. I'm never like, my quads are burning like hell and nothing else is really on. It's just like this total movement is very knackering.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry, so go ahead.
I was just going to say the only one kind of more compound lift where I get that sensation is maybe on leg press and like hack squats, where they are very like quad biased, but still it's probably more so after the set's done. I then feel like a sensation, not really during as much.
Yeah, exactly. This is also what I've experienced myself as well. That it's not like that I'm doing the repetitions and then all of a sudden I just have to unrack because the burning is so severe. It's more like at some point I simply can't overcome certain points anymore, and the tempo is slowing so much down that I know that I don't have anything in me anymore. And then I'm stepping off or away from that machine, or the barbell, and then I'm feeling like, oh shit, yeah, my legs are actually tired. And I even had it in the past, of course, where I've done one set of squats and then they were still so tired after the first set that going into the second set, then I felt more of a burn, but this was just due to so much lactate accumulation already after just like one set, that next set was so metabolic disruptive that it would have probably also been a good idea not to do that additional set. But it's more like, okay, I feel it afterwards, and it's not the same as doing something like leg extensions, where it's burning severely while doing the set, and then afterwards it's better. It's more like, okay, there's just like a huge local muscle fatigue going on.
Yeah, it's weird how that works. Man, it makes me really miss leg extensions. I've tried so many different ways to set up a leg extension from home without a machine. They're all shit. They're all just.
Have you seen that one? And this is one I've been prescribing here lately, but this is actually more like a sissy squat, like a freestanding sissy squat, where you are basically holding onto a table and then you're kneeling down and then coming up again. But the majority of the weight distribution is just on your quads. Have you seen that?
I've been doing those. They're what I always thought of as sissy squats. And then I saw the machine sissy squats and I was like, oh, they're quite different, but kind of do a similar thing. Yeah, the stretch you get on your quad on those is awesome. It's just, I've tried banding those as well. So when you kind of lock the knees out, you actually get tension in the shortened position, but the band just throws off the stretch. So then it doesn't quite work for me. So I prefer, I do them in this rack and I just hold either side and I just dig my knees forward. They've actually been pretty decent, but it's not quite the same disruption and build up of metabolites you get from leg extensions. Miss that fucking machine. I don't even think I used it that much, but I now miss it a lot.
Now that it's gone.
Second half of the question, he asks, do you think banded pull-ups can be a useful tool to build the lats? Despite of the suboptimal resistance profile, the trick with throwing a weight rope over the bar does not work in my house due to a lack of space.
So, wait a second.
So I guess
I'm confused. Just due to the last part of the question,
I think that's to what's his name? Mike Chalice was doing assisted pull-ups, but he was using the assistance was throwing a weight over and attaching it to himself, so it wasn't variable resistance like a band. So unfortunately the bands help you the most when you're the strongest and help you the least when you're the weakest in the movement. So it's kind of counter to what you might want.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that they can definitely be a useful tool. So I'm just splitting up the question just a little bit, dissecting it. So I think that they can be a useful tool. And also I think that they can build the lats. Do I think that it's the optimal? No. And you've pointed it out so yourself, due to a suboptimal resistance profile, it's probably not the best thing that you can do. But I also think that this is probably not how you will be training for the rest of your life. This is just for a temporary amount of time. And because something like pull-ups, I find to be very exhaustive in a session, that if you've done 3 sets of pull-ups, then it's already getting very hard. And the drop-off in performance is most of the time quite severe. I think that throwing in something like a banded pull-up can work, because you actually then have a pretty nice peak contraction there. Yes, the stretch position is not really that much under load any longer, but I still think it, at least for me, it gets my back on fire, right? Once again, I don't think that it's the greatest exercise there is. I'm not the biggest fan of using bands for something like that. But at the same time, I think it does its job well right now, especially when you don't have a cable station at home, such as you, Steve. I think that it can help accumulating a little bit more volume instead of being so tired from just 1 or 2 vertical pulling exercises. And this may be the only vertical pull that you can do at home is pull-ups. And if you then you're so tired after 2 sets, maybe throw it in so that you can get another 2 sets or so.
I have nothing more to add. I think I wholeheartedly agree. I think people are very quick to pull the finger at things that are suboptimal, but it doesn't really clarify how far from suboptimal. It's not like you're doing something that's, I don't know, just completely not using the muscles. It's still using the muscles very well. And I'm sure you've been potentially even doing them, Pascal, and I have done them from home. They feel good. They don't feel terrible. They don't feel like junk volume. They feel all right. So whilst maybe on paper it's not meant to be ideal, it still feels great, and you can still do a lot. And if that's all you've got, that's optimal for you in this situation. So,
and by the way, it's not taking out the stretch component entirely. So when I'm in the stretch position, it's not that the bands have such a heavy resistance that I'm all of a sudden weighing 0 kilograms or so. I have an assistant pull-up then, but the thing is that it's getting harder and harder while I'm coming up, and I'm probably still, so after like 10 to 12 repetitions, I'm still tired, right? When you come all the way, come with or touch the bar with your chest, right? Come down again. Well, sure, yeah, in a stretched position, it's not the greatest. Still, I feel that they are still doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I don't think, just from the feeling that I'm getting, I would be very surprised if it's not giving me anything in return.
Cool. Next question?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. So, Ben Van Leeuwen has asked, I listened to the pod regarding removing overhead press from your plan and using isolated work to bring up the delts. How many sets of isolated shoulder work do you recommend? I'll carry on. I would be doing 4 pressing, or shall I stop there?
No, maybe if that's helpful for the context, then I haven't read through the entire
it might be.
question.
This is why I was going to carry on, because otherwise, the answer's not going to be, maybe isn't super specific. He said, I would be doing 4 pressing movements: dumbbell chest press, cable chest press, push-ups, and flies. I was thinking something like butterfly lateral raises, reverse dumbbell fly, and a cable reverse fly for 3 sets each. Is that enough? I don't generally use MRV, so 9 sets isolated plus 12 sets from chest pressing. Hope that makes sense.
I'm just wondering if that's for the entire week then, for delt volume.
I'd say on face value, yes, from what I see here.
It could be enough. It's, of course, it always. I know that it always depends. Sounds like such a lazy answer, but in this case, it is really that. I've seen people being able to just like kill their delts and kill their arms because they're just like able to recover from that. Whereas I've seen people, and I'm bringing him up all the time, Z, for example, he's able to do the most amount of volume for his delts from all of his body parts, but he doesn't need much though still, and he has crazy delts. So it can be enough, and perhaps it isn't enough. What I think, or what I would advise you to do, is if you feel that the next day that it was a productive session, that you still have perhaps even some soreness or tenderness to touch the delts, perfect, right? Don't really consider adding more, because that's probably all enough for now. If then after 2 days you feel like good to go again, and the next session is on your plan, maybe add something more. What I've done with the majority, or what I'm doing with the majority of my athletes and with myself, is actually that I have a very high frequency for the delts and also for something like the biceps. It's not unseen that the majority of my athletes are doing like 4 to 6 times per week delt work and also some bicep work. Reason being is that it seems like the biceps and the delts, they are just recovering very quickly. However, what I found is that on a per session basis, the MRV is pretty low. So we've talked about it. Everything beyond like 4 sets for biceps per session, at least to me, doesn't really feel productive anymore. However, I could easily do another 4 sets here in the next session then, and another 4 in the next session without any kind of elbow issues or anything alike. And by that, by distributing then the volume across days, I'm just bumping up the volume super easily without any kind of detrimental outcomes. Whereas when you're doing a significant amount of these body parts in one single session, it feels like that you're just doing or ending up doing junk volume. And you can then bump up the frequency with those body parts if you want to, and if you have the time and also the energy available for those workouts, to just like throw in some kind of or some movements in there. Like start off with maybe 2 or 3 sets for those body parts and see how you're recovering, and then maybe add another day and maybe add another day, up to the point where you will feel that you're getting a lot out of it. But Steve, do you have any kind of other takes on that one?
I agree with everything you said there. I'm only looking at this question thinking he's talking about, we said removing overhead press from a program to build up the shoulders. And he, I think, has taken that maybe a bit too far in that we're talking about the anterior deltoids, the front delts. You get enough from your kind of incline and chest pressing to build those. And then you want to obviously put in work for your side delts, rear delts. So the overhead press it's not contributing to your side, or it is contributing to your side delts, sorry. Not a ton for me at least, but it won't really be contributing to the rear delts. And so only looking at this here, what he said, I would probably include another lateral raise variation for sure, probably another 3 sets. So but everything you said applies.
Yeah, so to hit every kind of part of the delts, he's then incorporating something like the so the reverse flies to hit the rear delts, the cable reverse flies is also the rear delts, I would say. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of separating that into several sets of different exercises, kind of. But yeah, I mean, it still then applies to what I said. Especially when you set it up like this, it serves in a better way, because then you have, like, on one day you can focus a little bit more on these pulling movements, for example, whereas something like a dumbbell lateral raise is kind of pulling, but I like to incorporate those more on pushing days. So yeah, just perhaps play a little bit around with splitting it up onto several days. Or maybe if you have like dedicated shoulder days, just pound it there and put it into separate exercises. And I think that something like overhead pressing is systemically quite fatiguing, and a lot goes also into the triceps, and focusing on movements such as then the dumbbell lateral raises. I think that you are targeting way more than what it is that you actually want to target.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you in terms of kind of the delts and the biceps. Unless I include 2 exercises, there's no way I'm doing really more than 4 sets on either of those, not generally. And I find that with a lot of clients, but they really recover stupidly fast. Like, I'm very rarely do I into the next day and I'm like, oh, that's really sore or really tired. It's just like, yeah, maybe like.
So because you're training twice daily, and I do as well, so right now not, just to give me a little bit more recovery time. Also there, sometimes I could go in on the second training session, and on the first one I've already trained the delts and the biceps, and I could easily get away with training them again. Like, you could even go up to like 10 to 12 training sessions, but then I think you would perhaps even run into issues with connective tissue and
particularly in the
joint
biceps
tissues.
I think probably that like bicep tendon. That's the only one I can think. Sometimes, like, especially, I mean, delts, they get pumped. My biceps get more so kind of disrupted, and they feel like they get a bit pumped, but not like huge gnarly pumps like the delts might get. Kind of gnarly, I guess, but they feel more pumped, like something's gone on there. Whereas my bicep, like in a session, they can feel completely wrecked, and then the next day I'm just like, did I even train? Like, man, it's really, they recover so quickly. It's just like some of these muscle groups, like I can see why, like, you have to specialize if you really want to maximize their growth. Specialize them, because they just take so much time and effort to just put through them, and that high frequency.
For the next off season, I mean, I've already dedicated a lot of time and volume to my delts, and still look at them. I'm wearing a vest and you can barely see them popping out, which is, to be fair, also due to a lot of fat tissue being here. But still, I'm just like, man, why aren't they growing? Because I've done a lot. Like, I could pull it up here, but it was probably like a very, very high frequency. And
I think my standard was always, I do like isolate side and rear on push days, and then on pull days I do upright rows and some traps, and that was my like standard for a long time. But actually, I've just programmed my next mesocycle, and because I'd been I'm just thinking to experiment with something. Just to go on a side tangent, is I was finding within sessions, my leg sessions were so systemically fatiguing, and I could just be training legs and I'd be so tired. Yeah. So I'm trying higher frequency with legs, so there's less each time to see if I can get out more. Because they won't necessarily be up for a long time after those sessions, but within the session, it was just like, I'm just so tired. So I'm trying for a short period of time, going back to an upper lower. So 3 times a week, legs, 3 times a week for chest and back.
So what would it look like? Is it then that you're, instead of doing like, I don't know, what was it like before? And how are you then imagining doing it now?
So it was, I had push, legs, pull before, which was actually new because I'd always do like push, pull, legs, push, pull basically. But I quite liked having legs in the middle. So that's how I had it before. Whereas now it's starting with lower, upper, lower, upper, lower, upper. And I have like a quad dominant lower with some light kind of quad work, light hamstring work, like just leg curls. And then in the PM, I have like forearms, traps, biceps or something. And then my upper body days are like either a back focus or chest focus, and then in the PM it's like delts, triceps. So that's the kind of how the split's going, and then I just rotate the emphasis, and then the final like upper and final lower are quite like metabolite, more focus, like higher repetition ranges. I am adding metabolites this mesocycle as well, so yeah, it should be interesting at least.
Yeah, very interesting, because I was thinking the same thing. Even though when I'm splitting things up, right, sometimes I have the feeling like, okay, I could get away with only doing like 2 exercises for the lower body and I'm fried. However, I find though that the time is then wasted. At least that's how I feel. I think like, okay, the upper body, especially like the arms, so the biceps and the delts, could use some work or could take up some space in those sessions as well. However, that's where I'm feeling that the systemic fatigue is sometimes so high, and also just like you are mentally so drained that even these things are not as productive anymore than in these sessions. Yeah. And I was thinking like, how could you change that? And I was just like pushing through it the entire summer, where I was just like, sometimes that was, so the leg days are always the biggest challenge. And the upper body days, it's not really that big of a deal of doing those things by the end of a workout, even though that you have actually trained the upper body.
It shocks me to think like we split our quads and hams into AM and PM, and those AM and PM leg days are my hardest, like they're the most torturous, hardest sessions. So I was just like, maybe if I spread them over 3 sessions, train my quads and hamstrings in the same morning session, it would just be a bit like, those will still be really hard, but like a little bit more isolated and spread out. So maybe I'll feel a bit better throughout the week. Whereas before, it's just like too much. So we'll see. Yeah. I have tried an upper lower before for a period of time. It went all right. It psychologically burns you out though. I won't be doing it for prep, I don't think.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's go over to the next question.
Oh, we still have sorry. I thought I was, we haven't even been that long. Great. We've covered loads. Anyway, so Joey, I actually don't know how to say that name. How would you pronounce that?
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Oh, wow. Wow. I don't know.
Vegas? Mr. Vegas, maybe? Mm-hmm. He says, I'm not sure if this topic was already taken, but I would like to know what is your limit / how far you can legally go regarding to nutritional counseling with your clients. Have you ever worked with a client that wasn't ready for counting calories? And if so, what kind of approaches you utilized? In those cases, can you provide a structured meal plan? How do you work when a client has some sort of disease / condition that needs extra nutrition attention? Really appreciate your content. Cheers from Portugal.
Thank you very much. Hopefully everything is going all right in Portugal, because I know that the cases are actually quite severe at the moment. So in that regard, it's also there I have to separate it into several parts. So first and foremost, yes, I have worked with people who weren't ready for calorie counting. Those, however, were the ones that most of the time are also not ready for online coaching, to be honest. As harsh as it sounds, at least the service that we are providing. We are also working with physique athletes. We require the majority of our athletes to have somewhat of experience with tracking macros, with tracking their program, etc., etc. And we are not the type of coaches who start with or from the get-go with people. I think that there are better coaches out there who are specialized in that field. And that's why when someone has come to us, or at least to me, and who was new to counting calories, it was always a challenge, and they never stuck around for very long, because so both Steve and I, we require a decent amount of our athletes as well in return, because I think that for me personally, at least, the coach-client relationship that I'm having is like a clockwork. I'm always like to say that if one piece of the clockwork doesn't do what it's supposed to be doing, the entire clockwork doesn't really work. So the client still needs to bring in a lot. And the majority of people who have never tracked the macros, they are the type of people, at least now in that given situation, that needs way more guidance. Someone who shows them the ways, which is still what we are doing, but to a different extent, right? So with that being said, I still had people who have been tracking macros where still we needed to take a closer look at their nutritional structure, the meal structure, where I'm then also asking for like, okay, what is it that you're eating on a daily basis? Because either the data didn't really make sense, or you're reporting that you're still feeling super hungry, but you're consuming a lot of calories, or you are still consuming a decent amount of calories when you are cutting, which doesn't really make sense that you're experiencing such a severe amount of hunger already in the early stages of cutting phase. In that moment in time, I want them to share with me their meal plan or their diary of the day. So via MyFitnessPal, for example, or they typing it out. And if we need to modify it, then I'm always giving suggestions of like what to do in regards to then structuring a meal plan. I, though, say that I want them to sit down and think about it actively. Reason for that is, first and foremost, I'm not a qualified nutritionist. So from a legal perspective, I'm not allowed to just like say, okay, this is the meal plan I want you to run with. Secondarily, I also don't think that it helps in any kind of way, because they are not actively thinking about it, and thus they are not applying things they've learned for themselves. And this doesn't help them for the future. I want them to be able to create those things on their own. So I encourage them to sit down, maybe on one day, and think about, so you have the macros outlined, and think about what it is that you want to have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe one snack. And do this for 7 days out of the week. Once you have done that, you have a meal plan for 7 days out of the week, which you then can just like run with on an endless loop each and every single week, and then just make modifications based on macro adjustments, right? But this allows you to have a huge variety, because you are having each and every single day it's different, but still you have kind of a structured meal plan, and that way they have done it, and now because they've applied it, it's much easier to once again do it in the future as well. I'm a big proponent of learning by doing, because I'm not here to just give people things on a golden plate, because that doesn't teach them anything. And I think that the role as a coach is to guide and to educate individuals so that they can stand on their own feet at some point. So, Steve, do you want to jump in before we're then getting to the last part of the question? Maybe you have other things to say in that as well.
I think you covered it off really, really nicely. I was only going to say, how closely did you follow Matt Ogus?
Never really.
Never? Okay. For the listeners, I send everyone Matt Ogus's Love Diet. That's all I send them.
What is that?
This is this is basically when he got into like flexible dieting and a bit more if it fits your macros. He like had macros, I think, given from like Eric Helms, and he went on MyFitnessPal and created this like really tasty diet that he could eat each day, and he called it his like love diet, and he did like a whole YouTube video with this like song, and it was just hilarious. But completely what you said there, like legally it's not something we can do, is provide them like set meal plans. That's not something we can legally do, which still surprises me how many, especially I see more so on the enhanced side, like prep coaches just give their clients meal plans. I don't know if legally they're allowed to do that.
I mean, they are already crossing a boundary with giving medical advice, right? I think that the next step is an easy one to take then.
And in that scenario, like it doesn't get any education for the client. So first of all, we do have that prerequisite to have people, so people have like used MyFitnessPal before, they have some awareness of calories and macros, so then it's easy for them to start structuring a meal plan. And I'm the same, like I might give them guidelines, like I want you to spread your protein through this many meals, have carbohydrates around your workout, hopefully, like plan what you want a good day to look like, and then I'll come in. And that way they learn a ton, and they also will adhere better because they've chosen to do it. Like they get a lot of autonomy that way. So sometimes the best way to coach someone is to be a bit less hands-on, because as soon as you like say you have to eat this at this time, like what happens when they can't? They don't have the tools and the education to be able to be flexible there. We want our clients to be as flexible and like enjoy their diet as much as possible. So if they can create it, like I think that's going to be an enjoyable diet. So I'm fully on board with everything you said there.
I know it sounds counterintuitive for the majority of people out there, especially the ones who are coaches, because the clients are also, of course, your revenue stream. So it would only make sense based on from a business perspective to make your clients stick around for as long as possible, because the longer they stick around, the more secure of an income stream you have. I know that this is kind of conflicting with what it is that I think a coach should be doing, though. A coach should encourage people, once again, to stand on their own feet, and you can only do that if you make them less dependent on what it is that you are giving them, right? And I know that it's an easy thing to do to make people dependent on you, especially like as a coach, because you are in a conflict the entire time then, or the majority of people are. And I can see why people are then also being a little bit secretive about their methodologies, that they aren't educating their clients, but making them depend on it, of like, okay, next week you will get your program here, and next week, or I don't know, next week I will provide you with the next weeks of meal plans or so. They are not teaching anything to the client. They are just like serving the client some kind of small bits and pieces. It's like someone is sitting in a cage, and they will only survive if you are feeding them. But you don't want to give them too much, right? Because otherwise they get too strong, too powerful, and they will just break out of the cage. So you're just like feeding them small bits and pieces so that they are staying alive, and they are very much just like kind to you, because you could just leave it away for one day, right? And this is of course not what you want. I know how awful that might sound for some of the coaches, because you are basically sending out your revenue streams, but at the same time I think that this is what you have to do as a coach. You want to see the small kids leave the house at some point, and this is only possible while educating them. And it's like I said, not always just give everything to them when they are asking for it, but especially encourage them to do it and think for themselves at times as well.
This is why it's so scary when you see those people who are like, I asked my coach why we're doing this, or could we do this? And they're just like, no, my way or the highway. Like they just never want to educate their clients. Part of me worries that a lot of these coaches don't even know why they're doing certain things and why certain things are the way they are. They're just like, yeah, this worked for me. I'll give them this diet plan. Oh, it's not working. Oh, you're probably not adhering to it anyway, are you? It's just like, fuck. So yeah, like education is all the way. And like you said, like it might sound counterintuitive to a coach, but I'm hoping there's enough coaches there who completely understand. And like even coaches have coaches, because sometimes, and a lot of what we do is like saving them from themselves. Like they know what they should be doing, but they don't often stick to what they should be doing, whereas we keep them sticking to what they should be doing. I call it, like, you know, on the motorway, you have like the sleeper bumpers where if you go out, they start going, bup, 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 bup. It's like when that starts hitting, you're like, tweak them this way. Whereas they would just go off and they'd crash and burn and sleep.
Absolutely.
Second, the end of that question was talking about disease/condition.
Yeah, most of the time I'm just like asking. Well, most of the time they are just notifying me that they have something, and I ask them whether we need to make any kind of modifications in order to actually put that into place as well. So let's just say they had some kind of lower back injury in the past, and sometimes it flared up. They underwent surgery or so, right? These are things where I'm just like, okay, I expect from an adult that he is also then seeking some medical advice or is consulting with a doctor. And also we have our park queue where we are securing ourselves that everyone has gotten the green light from their doctors. So that's why, once again, I'm just like, I'm assuming that there's an adult sitting in front of me who makes a rational decision and isn't just like stubborn about it, where, yes, I'm massively sick and I keep it away from I keep it to myself, don't really tell my coach the honest truth, how it really is, that it then puts me into a compromised situation. I'm very much assuming that everyone, once again, received the green lights from their doctors, consulted with them, and every kind of medical condition is then basically entirely up to you. They can, of course, let me know about it, but whether it changes a lot or not is really up for the question then.
Yeah, I think this is just another one of those that is just a scope of practice. And if we can help you within our scope of practice, we will. But you should be kind of seeking people who are special, have speciality training in that condition or whatever it might be. The only thing I can think of is like, we can work with like vegan, if you want to be vegan, keto, like these general approaches, like we can work with people like that, but like particular disease/conditions, that's for a specialist. And maybe we can work with you, but we're not heading that up. We can't recover you from that.
A quick example for this is, for example, I had twice, I think already, athletes who had Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid disease. And they were just like notifying me about it, that they are also on medication. And I even had one who needed to change the medication, and that individual just notified me about that as well. And for me, it's just, okay, thanks for letting me know. And perhaps that gives context to then some of the data that you're collecting, such as the scale weight behavior or so. But other than that, there's nothing that I or Steve or someone else can be doing. I'm just like, okay, thanks for letting me know. That's basically it. Because I'm not sitting here and telling the other individual like, yeah, I had this other Hashimoto's athlete and he actually took that medication. Maybe you want to consider this. This is absolutely outside of my scope of practice, and I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, I guess the closest we really ever come to it is like post-contest prep, when a guy maybe has really low testosterone, or a female maybe is short-term lost their period or their menstrual cycle. It's just a case of, it's kind of in our scope of practice because it's just calorie adjustments, building body fat back up. So if it was like extended, then like you would see a endocrinologist, for example. That's the closest I think we'd ever get to that sort of thing.
So the end of the questions, and this time I have to apologize, by the way, from the deep downs of my heart, to everyone who commented last week and said that they are actually proponents of cereals with fruits.
Bananas.
I was shocked how many people actually mix their cereals. And I have to ask, like, just for the clarification for me, are we speaking about cereals of like Kellogg's, like all that brand kind of stuff together with fruits? Or are we also speaking about cereals such as you did when it comes to oats, when it comes to is it called also muesli?
Muesli, yeah.
English? Yeah.
Which is like oats with dried fruit and stuff.
Yeah. Are we talking about that? Because that I can see why you may mix that with some fruits. But something like Fruit Loops, Cocoa Pops.
Cocoa Pops. I could see blueberries being all right with Cocoa Pops.
Oh, God,
Or banana. No, people said banana. I was like, yeah, banana goes with quite a lot of fruit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I haven't really considered all of the aspects and shapes and forms of different cereals with fruits. So I was just confronted with reality that maybe it's not you who's the weirdo, but maybe it's me. So I have to apologize for everyone who's a big fan of mixing the cereals with something else. And there were some good takes, such as, for example, peanut butter with something else. I can definitely see that. Definitely. Okay, peanut butter is not really a fruit, but
it's not fruit at all.
No.
But I was thinking like, do you know Weetabix?
Yeah.
You could put like banana on top of the Weetabix with some sugar.
Right now, I'm eating. When I'm eating cereals, it's always like tapas, which is kind of Weetabix, just in small. These
Mini.
kind of small pillows. Let it sit there for like 5 minutes in the milk. Amazing.
So you like them all soggy.
Yeah.
What flavor?
No flavor.
Oh, they're just mini. Oh,
yeah.
I don't think we have those.
No,
we have like chocolate mini ones, banana mini ones, and fruit and nut mini ones. I don't think we have just plain. Unless you're thinking of shreddies. Not shreddies. Shredded wheat.
Yeah, could be.
What color are they?
It's just like brown.
Okay, it's brown. So I think it is Weetabix.
Yeah, it's like Weetabix, just like in small, small little pillows.
I don't think we have that.
It's very good. It's very good. And there I could see that someone has something like bananas as well. I mean, bananas are just like, you can do everything with bananas.
Yeah, very versatile.
They are very versatile.
Do we have to pick a winner now?
Yeah, so let's do this. Heading over to this page here. So last episode was 185. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or do you? And once again, thank you very much for all of the comments here with your take on cereals and all that kind of stuff. Very good ones, actually. Very good ones. But here's my man. Actually, dry cereal is how I consume them 99% of the time. My man. Anyway,
I do
over
dry
to the
cereal.
comment yeah.
Especially when cutting.
23 comments. Going over here, start raffling and pick a random winner. It's Scott Murray.
Scott.
Solid one, guys. As for cereal, though, Steve, what the fuck are you with mixing it with fruit? The key is to have it dry. Milk makes it all soggy, so dry not only has a crunch, takes longer to eat, which in a deficit is key, but the flavor is 100%. Try it out and thank me later. Keep up the good content, guys. Loving it as always. So thank you very much, Scott. Reach out to one of us. And yeah, he has a point. But at the same time, making it not even mixed with milk is just a thing that you can do with something like Cocoa Pops, for example. I very much like putting the Cocoa Pops in the milk and eating them straight away so that they are not getting any kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cocoa Pops are a bit hard to eat without milk. Like, they're too small. How do you, just spoon them dry?
It's like
I'm imagining
as if you're just like eating a spoon of powder of like, I don't know, cinnamon or so.
Or imagine actually Weetabix. They absorb so much liquid. If you ate those dry, you just be like...
I once did it when I was in the UK. In the UK, in most of the hotels, you can actually get like
little
Weetabix.
Yeah,
exactly. And I took it with me. I actually had a bite off of those. And it was just like awful. Yes. You need to have some milk alongside with those.
Oh dear. We need a question for this time, don't we?
All right. Yeah, totally forgot about that one.
I have a thought of how much of a difference do people think steroids make? Because we were talking about it and how different people think about it. So I'd be interested to hear what our audience have to say about it.
Yeah.
Be as nuanced or as just like small, medium, high, as you want.
And on top of it, do you think that Steve and I are natty or not. I mean, I would be very surprised if anyone says like, we are not. Like, honestly, take a look at us, pathetic. I'm even looking pathetic for a natural athlete. So if I were to take steroids, holy shit, I would give up. I would just give myself the bullet and just go up and switch over to something like cardio.
Yeah,
I've seen some amazing stuff here lately. Sorry guys for dragging into the length here. Like a mountain race with a mountain bike starting. It's kind of the craziest mountain bike race, kind of, at least based on the YouTube headline, right? Massive crowd, like lots of people starting on top of a mountain and just like going all the way down to a village or so. Crazy stuff, and people just like sliding down the mountain because they couldn't get a grip and with a bike, and it was crazy. But it's so amazing to watch these videos on YouTube with the GoPros and stuff. Really drags you into that race as well. I don't know why I now got to this.
I thought you were going to talk. I saw a video, you may have seen it. It's like a mountain goat that like climbs up like a dam that's like basically vertical, and they're like edging themselves sideways up
on BBC, right? It was on BBC, I think.
And they're like licking to get like this mineral or something.
Salt, yeah.
I was just like,
anyway,
they're nuts.
Anyway, on that note, I guess I'll leave it here. Cheers, guys. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I guess we will speak to you next week. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.